everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yee.
And I'm Mike DeLisio.
And today we're taking a look at SILOS, which I have recently found was Secret Interlopers from Outer Space.
Of course, that's how acronyms work.
Actually, it is sometimes how they work. Acronyms make no sense. This is a reprinting of an old game called Municipium, which is widely thought of by many people, not everybody, but many people, including myself, as having one of the worst game covers of all time.
All time. No disagreements from me.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
And that was a Roman theme, I think, right? A Roman theme. And so you can see, obviously, the kind of slide sideways here. Now it's about your aliens trying to infiltrate town and pick up some different people in the town and cows. And you know what cows are known as? Wild humans. Anyhow, none of that might make sense, so we better have Mike explain the rules.
All right, here we see SILOS set up, in this case for a 3-player game. Each player is going to get alien figures in their player color. They're going to get 3 of their own personal power cards, and these are the same for all players, but these are one-time use cards that they have at their disposal throughout the game, and they're all going to have a player aid tile here, which is going to show you how the different locations on the board work. This side of the player aid is set up to how they are pre-printed on the board. However, if you flip it to the other side, you'll see that there are some alternate location powers, and if you use those, you're just going to be placing these new kind of covers on top of the old spots that are going to be related to the opposite side of the player aid. All right. In SILOS, players are playing as aliens, and they are trying to gather specimens on Earth. They want the most intelligent creatures on Earth, which, of course, as everyone knows, are cows. And so cows are the most valuable type of specimen that you can gain, followed up by humans, who are the second most intelligent, and those are broken down by different colors. This is primarily an area majority game, and when you are trying to figure out the majority at the different locations, it's going to be based on something called influence. Each figure, just by itself, is worth 1 base influence. If you have a figure with the leader hat attached, and so every player is going to have one of their markers with the leader hat, that's worth 1.5. So at this location, yellow would have 2 influence, whereas the blue player would have 2.5 points of influence. One of the locations, the university there, can allow you to upgrade one of your figures to get the graduation cap, and now this is worth 2 points of influence. So now in this case, this would be 3 points for yellow and 2.5 for blue, meaning that yellow would have control of this area. The winner of the game is going to be the one that has the most societal power emblems at the end of the game, and the end of the game is going to be triggered by the first player to get 5 of these tokens. At the end of that player's turn, the game will end, and whoever has the most of these societal power tokens will win. So these tokens are the way to win, but how do you get these tokens? You're going to get them by getting complete sets of humans. By a complete set, meaning one of each of the colors. However, cows are wild. They're more valuable, so they count as any color of human. Anytime that you can make a set of 4, you must turn them in, whether humans or cows or both, to get one of these tokens. And so on a player's turn, they're going to do the following 2 things in this order. They have up to 2 movement points that they can spend if they choose to. Let's say it's the yellow player's turn. They might move one of their figures 2 spaces, or they may move 2 of their figures 1 space. So maybe they do this and this. They're moving along these paths that you see printed across the board. Then once you've taken any movement that you can or want to, you're going to be playing a card. Most times you'll be drawing the top card of this common deck, which is made up of 12 different cards. And you actually get a kind of reminder of that by looking around the outer edges of the board. You can see where you're going to be placing each of those 12 cards. It also is going to show you the distribution of the deck. So the card that has the highest number of appearances in the deck is this one right here, which is the UFO Advance card. When this one comes up, you're going to place it in its associated spot, and you're going to move this big alien figure clockwise around the board. It's going to continue to go around the board. whenever this happens, you're going to be looking at who has control of that particular location. Well, in this case, we have 3 to 2.5, so yellow has the most influence, and they have the control here. They would take the cow, because again, this is the most valuable, it counts as a wild human, and then in this case, blue would get this human that they would put in their supply. If there was a third player here, they would not get anything. So that's the UFO Advance card. The second highest occurrence is this marked specimen card. And this says that each player draws a human from the bag and puts it on a corresponding focus group of their choice. Well, here's the bag of humans, and the focus groups are these 3 squares that you see next to each location, and they tell you which color of workers can be placed there. So each player in turn order would draw one from the bag, and like in the case of this purple, they can either put it here or here, maybe they would put it there. Whenever a focus group gets completely filled, let's say that this had happened over here, whoever has the most control, or has the control, will get to choose 2 of the humans there. In this case, there's no real choice because they're all purple. They would get 2. And in this case, there's a tie. So when there's a tie, anytime, you look at the town hall. So yellow, in this case, would get that 3rd human there. There are 2 cards in the deck that allow you to do 1 power. And this is going to let each player exert the power event in one of the locations in which they have the most influence. And so place it there, and then each player is going to look around the board, and they're going to choose a spot where they've got the most influence, and if they have multiple places where they have the most influence, they'll pick one, and then they're going to do the power of the location. If you don't have the most influence in any location, any particular player, they don't get to do anything. And the final card is where you trigger all powers of all the locations in numerical order, starting at the town hall, finishing in the bus station. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about how all of these work. The sheriff's office basically allows the player who has the control to choose another location and take the figures from there and move them to the sheriff's office. Essentially, you are arresting them. The university will allow you to upgrade one of your workers to be distinguished. The shopping mall is going to allow you to draw humans from the bag until you trigger a mind control event where it gets filled up. News station is going to allow you to turn in 3 cows or humans instead of 4 to get one of the tokens or draw from the bag. The church allows you to take a human from another player or to take one from one of the focus group spots. And the bus station allows you to move your stuff around. Town hall is where you would adjust the order of these discs based upon whoever has control of it at that point. That's essentially how the game works. You're going to play until one player has gained their 5th societal power token, and at the end of that turn, whoever has the most of those tokens wins the game.
As with all Bitewing games nowadays, production is stellar, whether you have the super produced one or the normal one. Their art really on point in this game. Quancha Moria did a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. It's a goofy theme, and it plays that theme more seriously than I thought, the way the game looks, but
bit, yeah.
Still goofy.
Well, and the other illustrator or maybe the graphic designer noted on there is Bridget Indelicato, who I think has worked with Bitewing before. And so, yeah, I love the look of this game. I think that I'm really glad that it's not the dour Roman Municipium type of theme because, well, I never really had much of a drive to play that one, but this looks more approachable and won't scare off the players at the table that I say, hey, would you like to play this with me?
Yeah, I agree. It's a fantastic production, and the art is great. And this is one where, because this is part of a trilogy of space games that this publisher put out at the same time, all by the same designer, this is the one that I feel actually works best with the theme. I actually really do like how they implemented the alien abduction theme into here. It really just kind of makes sense.
Sure. I mean, I would argue Orbit's flying around space is more space themey. But yeah, the funky theme works pretty well. I mean, I enjoy it. I don't know why I'm trying to get sets of 4 different humans, but whatever. And why...
I'll tell you when you're older.
Because they're all different. Look, you need scientists, you need farmers, you need to have all of this information, Tom. These humans are not just different colors.
Yeah, but not if I go to the news station. Then I just need 3 of whatever.
That is true.
His box is leaking more theme than ours.
No, I mean, I like the theme.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me about this game, though, is this is definitely a very funky game. I think that some people are just not going to love it because it feels odd. It doesn't feel like a normal game, and you're really making very few decisions. You move a couple people, you flip a card, or you play one of your 3 cards. You can only do that once per game, so that's not going to happen very often. Usually you're flipping a card, and then when that card will cause some things to happen. But sometimes the card is just score, move on.
I think the choices you make feel out of order almost, right? Where if you play it just going off of the top deck of the card, the top card of the deck, then yeah, you go, oh boy, I wasn't expecting this. And then everyone at the table gets a choice, a decision to make. And that part is, I think it's not that you don't have choices, it's that they come at an odd order. But those 3 one-time use cards you have, I think are kind of like the big breaking point of, I almost end this game always with at least one of them unflipped, oftentimes 2. And I go, yeah, I should have used those while I had the better chance, shouldn't I have?
Yeah, that's really the way that you have the agency, so to speak, in the game is by setting yourself up so that you can play those cards at the most opportune time. Is this a time where it is essential that the UFO moves to this next spot, that I'm going to play my card? Things along those lines. One of the things that they changed about this game from Municipium, I don't know how to pronounce it, but regardless, is that they've made it much clearer now what the distribution of the cards are in that 12-card deck. And that is a huge, huge difference. I can't imagine really playing it the other way because then it's causing you to do mental gymnastics you shouldn't have to do, and this game does take that away. When you play a card, you put it onto its designated spot around the edge of the board, and you know immediately what the probabilities are. Even for somebody as mathematically challenged as I am, I can figure it out because of the graphic design decision that they made there. So that was very smart. But oftentimes you are kind of hedging your bets a little bit. You're playing the odds a little bit, and sometimes it works in your favor. It's actually usually funnier when it doesn't work in your favor, as long as you're going into the game with that kind of a spirit.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, for me, my positive outlook on this game is because I don't take it that seriously. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you have to go in with that because the game has... I don't think it's a perfect game. I think it's a little clunky sometimes. I think when it's time to run through all the powers on all the buildings, the game kind of seizes up for a second. Like, we'll do this building, everyone's doing this and stuff. And then the next person goes, they move 2 people, boom, score. The next person goes, and it's like, it's fast, and then suddenly it slows a bit. And it's possible with more players that someone also gets cut out in the cold. So we're all going to do the buildings we control. Which buildings you control? Nothing. That can happen, right? Not be anything you did just because people are crowding you out.
With that note in mind, this is oddly one of the area control or area majority games, however you would define this, that I think oddly works really well with 2, because you put out 1 neutral piece of every of a color at every location, and then they always have the tie break. And so this works very well with 2 because you are playing against that other player and against a very simple little system there just at every location. I think 2 and 3 might be my preferred player count than 4 for that reason.
Yeah, Tom, I wanted to kind of piggyback a little bit on a couple of things that you've noted so far. Is that I do agree that the pacing of the game feels a little off. It plays in fits and starts. There's times where you're doing very quick things. You're moving a piece or 2, maybe not even moving a place or 2, flipping a card, the UFO moves over there. Easy enough. Someone's getting a human, someone's getting a cow. And then you have those times where you're having to do things in a very precise order, and it's going to cause sometimes some cascading things to happen. And so I do find that a bit off. The other issue that I have with the game is that, interaction, and oftentimes negative interaction, if you want to use that terminology, is kind of a hallmark of many area control, many area majority games. But I feel personally that the ratio of negative interaction is a little high for my taste in this game. I oftentimes feel like a lot of things are out of your control. Like, I was set up for this. Someone's at the sheriff's station. It's going to go off before me. I'm going to get yanked out of there. There was not a whole lot I can do about that type of a thing. You know that it can happen. You know that these negative things can happen. But it just feels a little bit too often that the negative interactions they just feel like a bummer to me. And that's going to happen, like I said, sometimes in area majority, area control games. But I think the ratio of it is a little bit high here for my taste.
Yeah, maybe. Again, it would bother me more if the game was longer.
Or really dour and serious themed, right? I think that this silly aliens thing does help a lot because I look at it as goofier, funkier, right? But I don't disagree with Mike's point there.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to the line, really. I was like, wow, where do I feel about this one? I'm giving it a 7, but what pushes it over the line? Well, it's the hats. Right, I mean, you get to put little hats in your guys, but they're not just meaningless, stupid symbols. They actually matter because one is 1.5, one is 2, and as dumb as that is, I'm abused by that, and I kind of like it's kind of a weird machine to watch it flow. So it's a weird one. I wouldn't want to play it all the time, but if someone brought it out, I'd be like, yeah, sure, because it goes quickly. Yes, there's that negative interaction, but I kind of laugh at it, and we laugh at getting the cow. And I look how many cows I've collected and what have you. It's just an amusing thing. So I enjoy it. I don't think it's one of the best, but they've polished it as much as they can.
I'm also coming in at a 7 on this one. I definitely enjoy this for having as much kind of that negativity, pulling someone out of an area and be like, oh, you don't have the majority there anymore, as we're about to chain fire everything off. There are some times that I've felt more kind of ganged up on this game, and there's other times that I have just really great plays of it. So yeah, a tad uneven, but very fun for what it does. And like I said, plays great with 2. There's a variant where you can play to 4 points instead of 5, and I think that there's almost no harm, there's almost no change because the game doesn't have like a growth arc to it. And maybe just those diploma hats, the 2-point hats, are like ever so slightly weaker. That's kind of my sweet spot to play this, though.
And for me, I'm just a little lower. I'm coming at a 6. The production, as I've already mentioned, is terrific. I think the theme is fun, and I agree that it is kind of. I'm glad that they went with the lighthearted thing because it does soften the blow a little bit, and it also doesn't outstay its welcome. Even at 5 tokens, I don't think it outstays its welcome. But I just can't shake the feeling that more often than not, and this is actually the game of the trilogy I've played the most. More often than not, I've come out from the game, even if I've won, just kind of feeling like, I don't know, it just was negative, just a little negative interaction heavy for me. And that's just going to be a personal thing. I think for some people, they're going to love that, right? Especially in a lighthearted themed game. I'm not saying it's a bad game. That's why it's a 6. But for my personal taste, this one's a little too negative in the interaction for me.
Says Kenichi here. I'm confused, Mike.
Look, I mean, I've been accused of being blindsided, and look, I happen to like most of, well, I don't know about most of his games I've played, I think are quite good, some are great. But there have been some that don't work for me, and this is one that's right on that edge, right? That's why it's a 6. I wouldn't turn it down,
I agree, and I will say that this is, of all the games in here, this is definitely the one I think you should try before you buy if you can.
Yep.
Or at least watch the overview from Mike so you know what you're getting into. Well, there you go, folks. That is Silos. This actually happens. I was once abducted. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yeag, quite terrestrial.
I'm Mike DeLisio, and I have questions.
No answers. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.